What if you're not actually behind? What if you're just using the wrong clock? It's easy to look around and feel like everyone else is moving faster than you. Someone is building a career, someone is getting in shape, someone is making money, someone is starting a new relationship, someone is moving to a new place. And without even noticing it, you start using their progress as proof that something is wrong with your life. You don't just see what they are doing, you start asking why you're not there yet, why you're not more successful yet, why you're not more disciplined yet, why you're not more confident yet, why your life doesn't look the way you thought it would by now. That is how the wrong timeline begins. It doesn't always come from one big moment. Sometimes it comes from years of quiet pressure. You should know what you want by this age. You should have a good job by this age. You should have more money by this age. You should be in better shape by this age. You should have figured it out by now. And slowly, those thoughts become a clock in your mind. And every time someone else moves forward, the clock gets louder. Every time you make a mistake, the clock gets louder. Every time life feels uncertain, the clock gets louder. Until one day, you're not really living your life anymore. You're just trying to prove that you're not late. And that kind of pressure can make every normal day feel heavy. Rest starts to feel like laziness. A slow season starts to feel like failure. Starting over starts to feel embarrassing, and being a beginner again starts to feel unacceptable. So even when you're making progress, it still does not feel like enough, because you're not measuring your life by where you were yesterday. Instead, you're measuring your life by where someone else seems to be today. And that is not fair to you, because you're not seeing the full story. You only see the confidence, but not the years of doubt. You see the results, but not the cost of those results. You see the version of their life that is the easiest to show. And then you take that version and compare it to the part of your life that is the hardest to explain. And of course that makes you feel behind. It was never a fair comparison. But the deeper problem is not only comparison. The deeper problem is that you may be chasing a version of success that you never really chose. Maybe you think you're behind because your life doesn't look like someone else's. But have you ever stopped to ask if you even want the life you're comparing yourself to? Do you want their schedule, their pressure, their responsibilities, their sacrifices, their definition of success? Or do you only want the feeling of being seen as someone who is doing well? And that question matters, because sometimes we don't actually want someone else's life. We just want the peace we think they have. We want the confidence we think they feel. We want the approval we think comes with their progress. We want the relief of finally feeling like we are enough. But if you build your life only to look good from the outside, you can still feel lost on the inside. You can reach a goal and still feel disconnected. You can impress people and still feel empty. You can look like you are ahead and still know that something feels wrong. And that is why being on the right timeline matters more than being on the fastest one. The right timeline is not always impressive. Sometimes it's slower, it's quieter, and sometimes it even means rebuilding parts of yourself that nobody else can see. Some other times it means taking care of your mind before chasing another goal. Sometimes it means learning discipline slowly. Sometimes it means resting. Not because you're giving up, but because you have been running on pressure for too long. And sometimes it means starting from zero in an area where other people already look far ahead. And of course, that can feel uncomfortable, because the world doesn't always celebrate quiet progress, but instead it celebrates visible progress. The new job, the new body, the new relationship, the next big move, the final result. But some of the most important changes in your life will not be easy to post. Learning to trust yourself again. Learning to stop breaking small promises to yourself. Learning to sit with discomfort without running back to old habits. Learning to build a life that feels peaceful, not just impressive. Learning to choose what is good for you, even when other people don't understand it. And that is progress too. It may not look loud, but it's real. And if you're in a season like that, stop calling it failure just because it doesn't look like someone else's success. A slow chapter can still be an important chapter. A year that looks normal from the outside can still be the year you finally become honest with yourself. You're allowed to move differently. You're allowed to build slowly. You're allowed to change direction. You're allowed to realize that the timeline you were chasing was never really yours. Maybe you're not even behind. Maybe you're just outgrowing an old idea of success. Maybe the life you thought you needed is not the life that will actually make you feel whole. Maybe the pressure you feel is not telling you to run faster. Maybe it's asking you to pause and ask where you're running. Because speed doesn't matter if you're moving toward a life you don't want. You can be busy and still be avoiding yourself. You can be productive and still feel lost. You can chase one goal after another and still never feel satisfied if none of those goals are connected to who you really are. So instead of asking why am I behind, ask a better question. What am I actually trying to build? Don't think about what would look good, what would impress people, what would make you feel ahead for a few weeks. Instead, ask yourself these questions. What kind of life would feel honest? What kind of routine would make me healthier? What kind of work would make me feel useful? What kind of people make me feel more like myself? What kind of progress would still matter even if nobody saw it? Those questions may not give you every answer right away, but they will bring you closer to your own life, and that is the real timeline you're looking for. Not becoming someone else faster, not forcing yourself into a life that keeps making you feel small, not trying to win a race you never chose to enter in the first place. The reset is realizing that your path is allowed to be different. Maybe you needed more time to understand yourself. Maybe you had things to heal from. Maybe you had lessons to learn that other people didn't have to. Maybe you had fears, doubts, or setbacks that nobody saw. Maybe you are not late. Maybe you're becoming someone who can actually carry the life you're asking for. And that takes time. Real growth often does. And it's not always clean. It's not always easy. It's not always something that you can explain while you're still inside of it. But it is still growth. So if you feel behind today, take a breath. Look at the timeline you've been using to judge yourself. Ask where it came from. Ask who taught you that you had to be there by now. Ask if the version of life is even the one you want. Because your life doesn't have to follow the same rhythm as everyone else's to be meaningful. You don't need to prove that you're ahead. You don't need to punish yourself for being in process. You don't need to rush into a life that only looks good from far away. You need to come back to your own pace, your own values, your own direction. Start there with one honest question. What life am I actually trying to build? Then take one step forward. Not because you're late, not because everyone else is ahead, but because your life is still your life. And you are allowed to build your life on a timeline that finally belongs to you.